Organissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.organissima.com. Organissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Well, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio with your host, Hurricane Age. This is the moment we always wait for, the one and the only day where we get to talk mental health with our world-renowned doctor all the way from Australia, Dr. Heim. This is Climb to Your Prime with Dr. Heim. And it is live. So this is a live show, not a replay. We actually are waiting for your comments on the chat box here, so please send in. We are live on multiple feeds here, so Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, and even Mixcloud. So if you're any of those platforms, YouTube as well. So please engage, get engaged with us and chat with us. Send us your comments. We'll place them up here, and Doctor is ready to answer some of those. We also have questions that we've received to the station here, so we have plenty of stuff. And also this is our last podcast for 2022. It's been a great year, a lot of stuff that happened, and we hope that we go out with a bang, and a lot of stuff is going on in the world. And actually, it is actually the future in Australia. At least that's always the case for my case here on Fridays. It is Saturday, and they're preparing for the New Year's Eve there, because I think that's the first zone, I think, in the world, if I'm not mistaken, or I'm second. So they're going to be ready for partying and the New Year's Eve right there. So Dr. Heim, welcome to the show, your show. This is your show. You know that, right?
Oh, it's your show. It's always a pleasure being here. It's wonderful to see your smiling face and your bright eyes, bringing hope to people. And as always, we're here to talk about mental health, preventative mental health. And yeah, I suppose we're looking at the future. Behind me, Sydney Harbour is gearing up for its fireworks spectacular. And I suppose because we're the first big city in the world to experience the new year, we have the privilege of bringing fireworks and the hope of a new year to the world. So I know a lot of people enjoy our fireworks. I got to say, they're spectacular fireworks, Hurricane. So I look forward to them. We all do, and please enjoy.
Well, Doctor, you have prime stage there. I mean, you're really right there. You don't have to, people have to go and struggle and be in front. I mean, you have prime real estate there. You don't have to leave. You can have a nice drink and relax and just watch it all, right?
Yeah, and actually, this is the first time that we're doing it from here. We've got the famous Harbour Bridge just in our background here, and it gets lit up with fireworks. There's a cascade of a waterfall of fireworks that come down off the top. There's a rocket of fireworks that goes left, right. It's really quite spectacular, and I've not experienced it this close, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I've seen it before. I mean, they do on TV. They show you the world as it receives the new year and
Yes.
the midnight clock and all that stuff. And it starts with Sydney and it keeps going around the world. So we watch all that stuff until it gets to Times Square, and then it just keeps moving, and time is just passing by. It's amazing, right? Well, again, listen, we've gone through tough days, tough years before. 2022 has been a little bit better compared to 21 and 20. We hope that 2023 is going to just be much better in every aspect of it, and bring in, prosperity, health, happiness, peace. And you and I were talking just a minute ago about, how, people can make a difference one day at a time. And we just try to do our best here. And
Yes.
somebody's got to do it. And there's a lot of people doing it. So we just one of few, that are, helping and trying to do something here. and hope that our messages and our insights are getting to the audiences all over the world. And I'm telling you, I mean, this show does get a lot of credits, all over the world, and it downloads pretty much everywhere. So because it does serve a lot of stuff. I mean, I think we all need mental health. There's no doubt about it. We all go through enough stress and anxiety in life, and this is important to us. And I personally use a lot of stuff that I hear from you here and I learn from you, and I apply some of those things, whether it's the breathing and all the acronyms that you've shared with us in the past. So that's it. So I have a list of questions, and I'm going to start with those, and then ultimately, as people watching right now, they can chime in. Last month we had a pretty good engagement from Twitch. So hey, people, if you're on Twitch, whatever you are, just put the comments that come right to us, and they'll be on the screen shortly, and then the doctor will be able to answer. So. The biggest event last month, that took the whole world, seeing for a whole month was the World Cup and the soccer, events all over, in Qatar. And I know we've had briefly touched on some of that last month. And before we left, we had a discussion about it. And so I do have a question about it, and it says, what is the worldwide psychological effect and impact of the World Cup, positive and negative?
Okay. Hurricane, we've got to face facts here, because the actual event that was so important was not the World Cup, but Morocco making it to the semi-finals. That's what you're talking about,
I'll take that. I'll take that.
No, that's all right. Because for me, Australia made it out of the group phase into the knockout round. And I bring that up because so we're talking about my home country, we're talking about your home country, we're talking about the USA also getting on in the World Cup. And I want to tie that to the whole idea of hope, because you asked what is the impact of the World Cup. And look, before it started, there was a lot of talk about Qatar not being up to scratch with its human rights, and how much money is being poured into it, and should we actually be enjoying all of this? And okay, so I suppose last time we spoke about some of the negative impacts of the Soccer World Cup, but the positive impacts of a Soccer World Cup is its hope. And it's actually wonderful that we're talking about this on New Year's Eve, Hurricane, because you started off talking about how we hope that 2023 is going to be just a bit better than 2022, which was just a bit better than 2021 and 2020. So the hope that something like a World Cup gives to everybody, because everybody can relate to, firstly, their country doing well. And then there's that little bit of imagination that, it's just wonderful. If I were good at something, I could progress somehow. And to see the stories of people who made it into the World Cup final from very humble beginnings, and to think that countries that economically are not doing well can compete and even defeat countries that are doing economically very well, right, means that we retain hope. So aside from the impact, I want to talk about how hope works in the brain, because hope is an amazing emotion, because it brings together the frontal lobe thinking, because we project ourselves to things that could happen, and we instill it with a lot of emotions. This whole emotion that this is what we want, the desire that we all sort of feel, they come together in something like hope. And the amazing thing is that our brain can project itself into the future and say, the future could be good. And we actually get pleasure from that. Our brain gets rewarded just by thinking that the future could be better than the present. And so when we start to get that feeling through imagination, we start to think, you know what? It may be worthwhile to put in a bit of effort to try to make that come true. And in all of our lives, Hurricane, if we're studying for a certain degree, if we're working to bring some money home, if we're looking to make our relationships just a bit better, it all takes effort. And why do we put in that effort? Because the brain in the limbic system feels that with the effort, we can actually have a reward payoff in chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. And basically the idea of reward from effort for effort is worth it.
Wow, that's pretty deep stuff. you,
Well, yeah.
you, it's amazing like how it goes from like just concept to like chemistry and just how the functionality of the brain and it's amazing. I always get mesmerized when we start breaking it down to the science. It's just and it is real. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it has a different impacts on everybody, and everything we experience is really done in this little thing here.
Oh yeah, and Hurricane. I mean, you watched the game between Morocco and France, yeah?
Yeah, of
Did
course.
did you hope that Morocco would win?
We thought they're gonna do it. I mean, we were like,
Yeah,
so
that's right.
the hope was like, that's it, they're making it to the final. But again, at the same time, it was a tough game. France is no picnic, and then
Oh no,
they're the world champions.
France, they were the world champions at the
I
time.
know. So,
But the thing is, because of that hope that it would feel good if Morocco could actually win, then as a fan, you just support your team just that little bit more so that the players work just that little bit harder so that the whole team can have just a better outcome in that particular game. Now, of course, the French people were doing the same thing, right?
of course, yeah.
They wanted a good outcome as well. And that's why it's a friendly match to bring out excellence in all of us. So the thing is that as a spectator, if you hope your team wins and you barrack that much harder, the thing is to take that emotion that is in your limbic system, which feels so good because of dopamine reward, and say, you know what, my life could feel a whole lot better if I just put in a bit more effort. And then you go, okay, I'll study a little bit harder. I will work a little bit harder. I will argue this out and talk this out so that our relationship is a little bit better. And then when it actually gets the result, you go, it was worth it. That's good. We understand each other more. We're doing a little bit better. That's what we all want. In a sense, this is what the World Cup does. It shows us what it means to be human. Because as humans, we are the only creatures on Earth that think about a future and want it to be better.
Well, doctor, I have to say, I mean, the keyword hope here. I think when this whole event started, right? We were just talking about it just as it started. Like I think it was the same week when they launched,
Yeah.
and then it just kind of evolved, and a lot of teams played their hearts off, right? I mean, everybody,
Yeah.
And again, I rooted for a couple of teams to start with. I mean, ultimately Morocco, the U.S., and actually I even rooted for Australia when they were out
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
was
mean,
ready for Morocco, okay, because of the connection we have here, right?
that's right. Well, it was right after our show, so I had to. You felt just righteous, right? But the really, I think the meat that it first of all it brought the whole world together. I mean, that's the thing. Like, regardless of politics and all the nonsense that we see in the world, I mean, you saw everybody coming together, and you're right. Qatar was not, well served in terms of like, whether it's going to be the place. So much critic, that took place in years before. There was so much propaganda against them, even within, and there were so many things that we don't want to talk about here in terms of politics. But it was really negative, stuff that was happening. Yet you can see that in no time the positivity took over.
Yes.
And it just became a world event and festivity, and everybody was cheering up, and everybody was happy. Oh, you saw on TikTok, on Instagram, and the social media, the news, the papers. It doesn't matter what you watch; it had to do with the World Cup, and the stories in the World Cup, and there were so many. And you mentioned Morocco and many others. I mean, Croatia is just a good example, from the previous, cup to this one. They also a small country that, for a minute, nobody kind of even worried about them, but they just came up with, last cup and this one as well. And they were very similar. And Morocco, to your point, was the other country, like it was an underdog, nobody thought that they'll make it beyond the qualifiers, right? And then all of a sudden they became number one in that group. And it was like, wow. And again, against big teams, right? I mean, Belgium was a big guy, and there's a few others, so it was just like not an easy, place to move on. But the whole part was, wow, if they made it, everybody, and you know what? It's funny because I was watching also the coach and of Morocco specifically, and I even did a show about him, and where he really gave a speech. It was in Arabic, or I forgot. I think it was in Arabic. He said, everybody can dream.
Yes.
And everybody can do something about it. Just dream big and go for it and take it one day at a time and just to work towards it, and that's it. But everybody has the right to dream and to work towards a dream. And that's actually a speech that actually should be translated in every language, to be honest with you, because the way he said it, it was just really powerful and just profound. I mean, it's something that can touch the hearts and the brains. And that kind of triggered a whole different, concept with the people, the team specifically. I mean, it played, wonders with them. But everybody, you had the fans, you had, everybody, was cheering up. There are countries that didn't even know what Morocco was. There are people that didn't realize what, where the country was, but they just became supporters of this nobody team, right? Or I wouldn't say nobody, because I mean, they did have an impact in '86. They had, other, years where they really came up nicely. And but this team, I mean, literally they had 3 months to prepare. And the other part, these guys came from all over. I mean, the team was formed from like players that actually were double national citizenships in different countries from Europe, and some of them from Morocco, and they just came together in no time, but they made it, and they created hope for a lot of countries in the world that may have never thought that they could make it to that level. And that changed the dynamics. I mean, even for Africa, right now they have the ability to have 8 countries represented in the next World Cup. That was not possible if an African country didn't make it to this. And so again, they gave hope for Africa, for the Arab world, for in the religion aspect of it, the Muslim world. I mean, everybody was cheering. It was crazy. And even even people from all over the world, they were just happy. Hey, listen, these guys played, they deserve. So it created a message of real love and hope. And I think from us, you and I here, it is the same thing that we deliver here. It's like we hope for the better world. We hope for that people can become better. And you, doctor, you're giving some key tools to make people actually better, and hopefully guide them to whatever they have in their life. You can help them change it, tweak it, and really achieve more and more and more, and be just more productive in their own personal life, family, work, and society. And so I just want to thank you for that, by the way.
No, that's right. Thank you, Hurricane. But I want to pull apart some of the things that you said, because they're very important. Because when we talk about mental health, we often talk about individual mental health and what can I do for myself so that I am better. But you spoke about that speech given by the coach about dreaming, how we all have the right to dream and we all can dream. And this is the amazing thing about the Soccer World Cup. We had over 5 billion people in the world watching the same event. That means there were 5 billion dreams happening at the same time. And what happens with those dreams is you actually get to wish each other well. You actually want more African nations to be able to make it. You want more South American countries to get back to where they were. You want soccer to get better. And so I'm going to pick out one particular game when Japan defeated Germany, right?
I saw that game. That was tough.
Oh, yeah. Now, the thing is, how did they do that? You see, Japan plays a very different style of football to Germany, and Spain plays a very different style of football to Brazil. And what happens is we have all these different styles, just like all cultures have their own style. But because so many of the top Japanese players were playing in Europe, in the German league, they learnt what the Germans do. They learnt what they did, and they incorporated that and actually defeated the Germans. And well done, okay? Because what we can do is, even though we're all different, we can actually learn from each other so that we all become better, so that the excellence, and we're just talking about soccer at the moment, the expression of excellence as human beings rises higher. And this is why competition is so good, because we get to try those things out. So the Japanese, with their style, learning from other people, just like the Spanish, the Brazilians, the German, the Moroccans, the Australians, bring that all together so that as human beings, as a human race, we actually improve our level of excellence. And that all starts from dreaming.
I always say this: if you want to dream so big that you can scare yourself. That doesn't it doesn't. You don't lose anything, right? I mean, that's the thing. You can't be cheap with your dreams, And everybody's that's successful today started with a dream and hope, all right, but you complement that with action, and then the rest is history, and you just don't give up. That's the other element. I think that when you combine all these things do fall in place. So. but I just think that we've gone through a nice, and by the way, congrats to Argentina and even France for second rank, Croatia, and every team actually. I think we mentioned this last time. Everyone that made it to the World Cup, every team that made it there, they had to qualify to go there, and they went through a whole different series of games and wins to get there, and frankly, they're all winners. At the end of the day, there's always going to be one, finalist who's going to get the cup, and Argentina, to your point, they were able to get their cup this time, and so, and you can see it's moving from different territories, but like you said, now African nations and maybe the Middle East and some other parts, even Asia, like you're talking about Japan. I mean, they played and they really did a great job. I mean, unfortunately, they didn't continue, but I rooted for them too. I literally looked up at all these teams that nobody cared for, and I'm like, you know what? They stand a chance, and if they play, they should, and that's exactly what happened. So
yeah.
All right.
And we all own that. We're all part of that, okay? Because Argentina are only so good because France is so good, and France are only so good because Morocco gave them a good run for their money, and Argentina was even given a run for their money by Australia. So the whole world actually participates in the excellence of a World Cup final.
Everybody's pushing everybody, right? Like, we got to do more and more to get there. And you know what? That's the spirit. And, no harm. I mean, I think at the end, everybody was friendly. I mean, one of the things that I can tell you there, the in the Moroccan game against France, right? So those two guys, Hakimi, who's actually, the Moroccan player, and Mbappe, who's, the top player in the French team, I mean, they're actually real buddies. They're really friends. I mean, they work in the same team, and they're like really, really buddy. And just the way at the end, how they hug each other, they switch the jerseys, and they give love each other, and at the end of the day, that was it. So, and right now, I was just watching today, they were actually hanging out together, and getting ready for their regular season stuff. So, but that's the other thing, like you compete doesn't mean that you have to fight with each other, and soccer gives an example to the world that why do we fight? You know what I mean? There's other ways. I mean, I wish instead of fighting real wars, we can just have a soccer war, and whoever wins, stops the nonsense.
Well, that's the aim, Hurricane, to stop wars and have peaceful sporting competitions. So we get the same competitive nature, because that competitive nature, which is related very closely to aggression, actually drives our excellence as well. All right, so you've got to think of a player like Pele, who became the greatest player ever, right? He had to have that determination, which is actually the same energy as anger in the limbic system, but because he was able to control it with his thoughts to do something useful with it, he practiced to the point where he was so good. So competition and aggression does have negative consequences, but it also has positive consequences. And it's our choice as to where we channel those.
Well, thank you, Doc. And, again, I think Pele, he was one of the top and the best. And, we just lost him. And, but unfortunately, that's life. But yeah, I mean, he left a legacy. And, I think is going to continue with him, historically. And, there's others, legends that also departed, but, there's new legends that are being made. And I think those are all leaders, because in a way they show us, a better way to be in life. And their behavior there sometimes does, also reflect in their way of living and how they contribute to society. And so that's a great thing. All right. So we're going to change gears here. And we're in the spirit of the new year. So I have a few questions around the holidays here.
Yes.
The first one is, I think it's pretty funny because it's like a standard across everybody. So it says, why is it that people worldwide have the tendency to make New Year commitments and resolutions just around the New Year, yet it is another day? Is this a cultural ritual, or is it deeply psychological? David.
Okay, so David, ultimately, I don't know the answer to that question, but as a psychiatrist, I have to say it's deeply psychological, all right? Because there are things that we want to do. We actually want the future to be better, which means that we have to put in effort to get that dopamine reward. But, David, we all stuff up. There are days when, we just don't do enough study. We just don't get the work done. We don't feel like getting out of bed. And that happens to all of us. And so sometimes it really is a good circuit breaker for the brain to sort of say, all right, let's pick a line and say, let's start again. And this is what goal setting is all about, and all that a new year does, because as David says, it's just another day, but it's an opportunity to say, this is a new year. Let's plan for this. Let's plant our crops at the right time, in the right way, for the right people, and let's bear fruit for ourselves and for other people. And it's a very strange thing, Hurricane. If it was just a matter of putting together some goals and staying on track, life would be easy, but we all fall off track. We all get sidelined. We all stuff up. So, David, I think it's deeply psychological that the brain wants to actually manipulate the environment for good, but we have this inertia inside of us, laziness, if you like, wanting to goof off. And so we have to keep ourselves on track to do what we believe is the right thing to do. And that brings us back to hope and dreaming, Hurricane.
Well, thank you, Doctor. And it's amazing because I'm laughing as we speak because back in the days when I worked in Disney, one of the things that they did every day, they celebrated New Year. And the concept behind it was that every day there are people that are having a birthday party, which is a New Year for them. So it kind of like it became a New Year for everyone. So there's 365 New Year celebrations every day, and you get people that same celebratory concept where you're being reset kind of thing, and maybe you can reset yourself on a day-to-day basis as opposed to just waiting for one event a year. And it is amazing because to your point, we all kind of wake up and. I wouldn't say all because I think that would be a better place to be where we all wake up in the morning. It's like, hey, it's a new year, a new day. Let's just do the best and be better. But you're right. I mean, we do get lazy. We do get distracted.
What I'm going to do is quote a famous psychiatrist, and this is Carl Gustav Jung, and his whole approach to this. And his approach was that all of us need to reflect on what's been to make the future better. So just to take a bit of time out, and his idea was that, let's say every day, you take out 3 or 5 minutes where you just sit in a chair and you go, how did I do today? Was it okay? Is there anything that I can improve so that tomorrow's a little better, right? And he says, do this daily, monthly, weekly, and once a year, take out a whole day and say, how did I do this year? What did I think went right? What do I think went wrong? How can I reflect on this and learn from this so that the next year is just going to be a bit better? And he actually had this idea of a mental retreat where you just sit on a beach or by a river or in a forest or by a fireside, and you just spend time yourself reflecting on where your brain has been, where all your efforts have been put, and saying, am I heading in the right direction? Is this what my limbic system feels is right? Is this what my frontal lobe thinks is the right thing to do? Have I got the right plan? And do I need to adjust to anything? And Hurricane, I do that myself, and I would say to people like David, it's a good thing to do, right? Because there are so many distractions out there. And so to keep on track, whatever that means for you, is actually quite an important part of what it means to be human.
Well, thank you, Doctor. We have a few more questions, so I'm just going to go to the next one.
Yeah.
So this actually has to do with the holidays, and I think we're still kind of the edge of the holidays. So, and it was available last time, but we didn't get to it. But I do want to make sure that we respond to Jeff here. So it says, how can I manage holiday pressure, gifts, family expectations, and financial burdens that occur every year after the holiday season? It is a big deal for everyone.
Big one. Okay, it's a big one because we all go through it. We all experience it. We all have financial pressure or some pressure of expectations, family pressures, and also because we tend to live further apart, there's a lot of logistical questions. Getting flights or train travel or even car travel. Tonight in Sydney, it's going to be chaos there on the streets, okay? So it's how we get through all of this. So what I say to people like Jeff is to go back to your values. What's more important to you than other things? And I encourage people, and I know I've spoken about this before, Hurricane, because it's really, really important to know what your top 10 values are and to actually have a list which you show nobody else so that you know what's most important to you in life. Because we're going to have to make decisions. There may be some family members that we say, yes, we're going to see you. There may be some family members that we say, sorry, we won't be able to get together. So the amount of time or allocation of financial resources, all those sort of things. So at the very least, you're being true to what you believe is the right thing to do. Because I don't know about you, Hurricane, but family members and friends, they all have their expectations. They all drag you in different directions, right? And I'm sure this is the experience of most everybody. And so you have to have a center. And I'm actually going to go to Shakespeare on this, who basically said that if you can be true to yourself, to thine own self be true, because then you can be false to nobody else. So if you can be true to yourself, you're at least not lying to other people. You're doing the best that you can. And so that takes a little bit of planning before the holiday season. And after a holiday season, it takes, okay, how did I do? What did I get right? What needs to be improved? And actually writing these things down so that next year you just read this thing in early December and sort of say, okay, Jeff, don't do this. Jeff, do this. Jeff, this was a good idea. Jeff, you can skip that one, all right? That way we do just a little bit better, because as human beings, we do want the future to be better. The future is very important to us.
Well, yes, sir. I mean, without it, if we don't deliver a good future, I mean, there's no reason, right? I mean, we'll be living and just ending it. So, and we all have families and children, and we hope that they have a better life and so on and so forth. And, obviously we are building that foundation for them. But I do want to just address, the whole thing about the holiday, because sometimes it is a cultural thing for the most part, and,
Yes.
more than religious. And I think what's happening, people sometimes are forced sometimes to just do more because of what people, what they think, people would say, or how people would react to them.
Yes.
If I don't give a gift, that's going to be a problem, right? It's going to be a serious issue, right? Or like I want to be perceived like, I'm cheap or whatever. I'm not a good, family member. I don't care. And I think that's the thing. So it's anxiety, and people sometimes they really dread that, or they go extravagant and they put themselves in debts and so on and so forth. So it is challenging for people. And, what we say to people, I mean, what if you can afford things, what would be like an advice to just alleviate some of that anxiety? People like, well, I'm going to hide from everybody because I can't afford. See, for me, for example, I would say, if you can't, I'd rather see you, right? Visit me and hang out with me for a holiday than actually expect a gift from me. That's just me. Actually, I learned that from my dad, that was his concept, Do you want my gift or you want me? I mean, I think I'm the best gift, if family is more, relationship is better than just an item. Now, an item does add value, but if I can't afford it, why not? I can. Some people hide and will cut off people just because they can't bring in a gift, which I think that's wrong. But again, I'm not the expert, but that's just the behavior. So what do you say to that, Doc?
Yeah, so this is a really difficult area, and I'm going to tell a personal story about this, because Hurricane, we're doing all right, okay, in Sydney, and giving gifts, small gifts, was fine when we kind of needed stuff, but now when we've got a lot of our material things fulfilled, we sort of thought, are we going to give gifts to people again, right? And what we actually decided to do was starting to give charity gifts. Your gift is you have bought 3 goats for somebody in Nigeria, okay? Or you now own a tree in this particular part of the world. And we thought it'd be a good idea just to spread the goodwill, give a gift, but it actually helps somebody else. That didn't go down too well in the family to begin with, I've got to tell you. Right? In fact, we got into trouble for it, okay? But over the years, we found that more people have started to do this, right? So it's cultural change, because it comes down to family expectations or expectations of a particular culture, that these things get done, or that means that you love us less, which of course is not true. Everybody actually loves their family, right? It's just how that gets expressed in the complexities of a modern world. And so we continue to do things like that, but we still have to tread a bit carefully, because you have to stay in relationship to people. And that, in a way, brings it down to what it's like being an independent person in amongst a whole lot of other independent people. You can't just do what you want all the time. You have to negotiate. And all of life is negotiation, so that we all get to play well together and enjoy even holiday seasons.
Well, thank you, Doctor, for sharing that. First of all, that's personal, but thank you for sharing that. I mean, but you're right. It is difficult, because in one hand you want to be with the family and you want to do that. And
Yeah.
I love your concept, by the way. I mean, it is sometimes that tree is going to serve a purpose for many years to come, and it's not as many times you get a gift. I mean, you probably use it for a couple of times and it's over, right? You just dump it and you break it, whatever. You don't use it anymore. The value is limited at the time, but something like what you said about a tree or feeding a family somewhere where it's needed, I mean, that goes a long way. But you're right. The immediate people are like, well, I don't care about that. You know, what are you to me, right? You know, what's your value to me? And I think the issue is that over, I guess, years and centuries, you know, this thing escalates to become more of economical than anything else. So there's too much pressure in the media. Everything is all about shop, and gift season. And so now we're almost obligated to do things versus like, you know, it has to be from the heart. I want to do it because I want to do it, not because I'm obligated to. And I think that's the problem. Obligation versus, like, you know, free will. I want to just do it because I want to. I want to give something to you because I love you, because I want to give you something, show you that, you know, the relationship we have, but not necessarily because I have to, because somebody else is doing it, right? And that's a difficult place to be, because to your point, it doesn't always go well.
So I'm going to give a very practical approach to this, because some people actually show their love by giving gifts. Some people actually show their love by spending time with other people. And sometimes we don't understand that we're just doing different things to show love. But when it comes, let's say, to a family gathering, to actually talk about a family holiday gathering about a month before it takes place, and you say something like, okay, what if we do no gifts this year? All right. Or what if we do gifts just to the value of such and so much? Or what if we all got together and chipped in and then gave a big gift to a charity, okay? But the point is to talk about it. There's no right or wrong answer, but the obligation comes when people don't let others know what they actually believe. Like if somebody says, no, well, gifts are actually important to me, right? Well, that's good information. Where somebody else will say, well, look, gifts aren't that important to me. I just want to see you. That's all good information. And then to go through a few suggestions, at least everybody gets to affirm their love for each other, and to acknowledge that, you know what, this is a problem in today's world. It's not just a given like it was 20 or 30 years ago. We've got to nut this out. And for everybody to have a say, that's the negotiation that we can have, so that we as human beings can get on in this world a bit better.
Thank you, Doctor. I think we can use that, and I think everybody can apply some of this advice, because, you know, just to navigate the whole, you know, holidays. And by the way, these holidays do come back, you know, over and over. So it's recurring, and there's multiples throughout the year. So, I mean, the next one is a big one, right? Valentine's, right? The love holiday.
That's right. Okay, and just a warning, even talking about it doesn't mean that the problem will just go away, all right? Okay,
That's true.
The problems will still be there, but we understand each other a little bit better. And that actually feels good if we can understand each other. So,
go ahead. No, please.
Oh no! You brought up Valentine's, and I sort of thought we can talk about that next month, sort of just before Valentine's. But
yes, we will. So not the topic of today, but definitely it's coming up. So I know, because again, that's a whole specific month, and we can talk about all the good stuff there. So now we're probably going to change gears here. So there's a few questions that came in. So this one is. Okay, that's interesting. I am so tired of road bullies, and sometimes it gets to me and I don't want to become one. It is such an irritating behavior, and as much as I try to control myself, I find that I get so close to reacting as well. I cannot comprehend what goes on some of the drivers' minds to really be pushy and aggressive on the road, honking, tailgating, etc. What can I do to avoid becoming one of them?
Okay, that's a really good question. So we're talking about road bullies, and in Australia, we call it road rage. People who are basically acting out badly on the road and venting their anger because they've got an agenda and they don't want anybody else to get in their way. Very difficult. Okay, just a few things about that. Firstly, it's a bit like cyberbullying because you are doing it with strangers, because you're protected by your own vehicle. There's actually less consequence to showing your anger than if you are face to face, like talking like this. People tend not to show their anger because it can escalate into an actual fist fight. Okay, and unfortunately, I have seen road rage or road bullies stop and actually have a fist fight. It's a very sad thing to see. Okay,
Seen those.
yeah. Okay, so a few things. Firstly, one of the message about humanity is there's not a lot of traffic out there because you're part of the traffic, right? So in other words, it's not a problem of everybody out there because you're part of it. You are one of those people out there that is adding to the chaos and the confusion and the expectations. So that keeps us just a little humble to sort of say, well, at the very least, I don't want to add to this road rage. And just as your listener said there, how do I make sure that I don't become one of these people, right? And that's a good attitude first, because the very first thing to do is to make sure that you're not adding to the road rage, right? So a few tips on that. When you get into a car, however long the trip is going to take, add about 5 or 10 minutes to say you don't have to be there right at that time, okay? So that you give yourself just a bit more leeway. Secondly, to put on some music or something to listen to so that you are spending the time usefully. And something that I do is actually I remind myself that there are going to be some angry people out there because they're having a hard time. Not because they're angry people, but things happen to them in life. So I might get a few beeps or honks or people cutting in front of me or whatever. So when you're prepared for that, when it happens, you can just let go a bit easier, okay? So that rather than saying, there goes a damn angry person, you can say, there goes a person who's having a hard time, right? So you just put the brakes on and you just let them go because you want to wish them well. You want their life to go a bit better, even just for the idea that you get a lot less road rage yourself, okay? But to do all of that, we have to be, how do I put it, conscious, mindful. You actually have to think about these things. If you're caught up in the moment yourself, if you're in a hurry, if you're under pressure, that's when you are in high chance of becoming one of these people yourself. So when you sit down in the car, put the seatbelt on, just to have a reminder right at that moment. Just when the click goes in, you go, click. Okay, something's got a click in my mind. I'm here to relax for the next half hour. I'm here to take it easy. I'm here to get out of other people's way so that I can enjoy this. And if you're able to do that and you need something that's going to trigger off these thoughts in you, and I use the click of the seatbelt, right? Some people will have a sign up in the car that says something like, chill, love is the answer, keep it quiet, other people have a hard time, whatever, something like that. But I'm giving people the click at the moment because it's something that everybody does. And anybody who hears this, next time they hear the click, they'll go, oh, that's right. I can just chill a little bit more so that the roads are just a little bit less angry and I'm not adding to the problem. I'm part of the solution. Really good question.
Thank you, Doctor. You know what? I want to add some stuff to it because, first of all, I think, I'm not going to say that I've been crazy on the road, but I've had moments where, you get excited too. I mean, I'm guilty just like everybody else. I mean, I spent a lot of time on the road and, 99% of the time you're good, but there's always somebody that comes off and you get really excited and you want to do something about it. And then you're just like, okay, I'm just going to it's just another day, move on. But I love what you said about, for example, giving yourself ample time. We don't have to rush to go places. As a matter of fact, I can tell you, we all contribute, not just by being in traffic. So, for example, as an employer or as a manager or as a lead, somebody that has, a team, for example. One thing that I've grown, over the years to believe is that nobody needs to be in the office at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and you have to, that's fine. But like some people make a meeting at 8:30, 9 o'clock. And what you see is that people are rushing, they come in out of their sleep, they're tired. they're not happy. They're not in the best place. They're stressed out. And they just make it to that office because they have no choice because their job is on the line. And you create extra. And that's what happens. We see these people like swerving, going late because they're late to the meeting. So one of the things I applied in my own life is that I never set up a meeting at 9 o'clock, for the last few years.
That's great.
I stopped that. My meeting started at 10:30, and then the last meeting is going to be at 3:34, the latest. That's the worst. I mean, if I have to. So there's no reason. There's nothing that I can make a difference between 8 and 9 o'clock, to be honest with you. The next few hours still going to be there, and you can do more. And it's an old, I think, mentality in business. But I think it contributes to a lot of the stuff. When someone typically is rushing, unless they have an emergency, it's usually something that has to do with work related, and that's when they they get to make a next appointment because their job is online. That's the other thing. There is things that actually, that are the causes to why people are rushing and going crazy because they're worried. And they're worried, and now they're not caring about what's going on. Sometimes they even take a chance by, getting pulled over. They get tickets, and then ultimately accidents can happen. And then now they 1-2 minutes, later is probably safer than actually going crazy and doing all these stunts and then wind up in a tree or in a cliff or, God forbid, hurting somebody or killing somebody. And it's unfortunate, but I think we all can contribute to that, over time. If we're conscious as members of societies, if we have the impact, if we have the ability to change some of the dynamics. I mean, today, people work remotely, hybrid roles and stuff. So there's less. I mean, there's commuters, things, and there's sometimes, where you can get people to carpool. There's so many things to your point. The first thing is we're complaining, but we are in it. I mean, we add to those vehicles, right? And and that's the other thing. Sometimes you get someone that is completely slow on the lane, and you get excited, like you want to move around. So everybody has to be conscious. So whatever the status is, you just have to be in balance, and that's not always easy. But if we can help somehow to limit some of those anxieties and stresses to other people, if you have the ability to do it, do it. And like I said, I give an example that I applied myself. Like that was just a rule that I applied, probably the last 10 years. I mean, before that I was crazy and I was demanding from people because I didn't realize that how bad it is until I started feeling myself like, why am I going crazy? And because that just tends to do this. And it's not going to make a difference that half hour, an hour, and you can still get the same things done. And so that just my take on it. So, for what it's worth.
It's very helpful. The other thing that you're doing, Hurricane, is the language that you're using. You're not saying, oh, I'm getting upset or I'm getting angry. You're saying, oh, I get excited, right? And so that already puts a positive spin on it. But using words like chill, relax, quiet, tranquil, they actually help because our brain thinks in words. And those words there are dialogues that we have with ourselves all the time. So rather than saying things like, don't get angry, there are some angry people, it's just chill, just relax, so that the brain hears the right thing to do. And it starts to happen. Now, I could go to a part of the brain that does all of that, but that gets quite complex. But basically, our whole brainstem will start to react to our frontal lobe because all the messages that come from the frontal lobe and the way that we think, it creates an environment for the whole of the brain and then for the whole of the body to actually exist. It's all about the environment. Get a good environment.
Okay. By the way, I love what you said about the music and just the, you kind of set yourself, and, just the subconscious piece about the click. I think those things all kind of become part of you if you do. I love driving, so I enjoy. Actually, I can drive literally from here to Florida in a heartbeat, and I won't even feel it. Just take on cruise control and guide it. I don't care. I'll take my lane and just let people just zoom if they have to. If I need to get my speed, I get in. But like I said, 99% that's just me. I'm just chilling. And frankly, especially if you're working, and driving is part of your life. I mean, you don't want to be going crazy all the time on the road because you're going to lose your license. You're not going to be able to work. So,
Exactly right.
and sometimes, but from an employer's or at least, for someone that can make a difference, another advice that I would give is something I've actually also used. When you have somebody, because here's the thing, in the morning, there are people that have children, they have to take them to school, they have this, that, this traffic. You create more by creating that early influx. And, you pass 9 o'clock, the influx is gone already, at least it's lesser. So in New York City, I mean, that's always going to be traffic, but there's always a lesser point. And I was able to actually shift some people's, schedules to make sure that I accommodate where they don't have to go crazy and be in the office, earlier and then just go to all that range. Because first of all, they're not even going to be productive because they come in already with their mind is already like out there. So you want them to come in nice and peaceful, ready to give. And so again, just another advice that I applied myself. But again, just little things make a difference.
Make a big difference. Right.
All right. So now I have one additional question. In the interest of time, I think we get some more time. I have such a low self-esteem that I let myself go, just eat and drink and hide for the most part from any social engagement. I feel so down and can't figure out how to come out of the state. Not sure if this is depression or something else. Would meds work for me, or can I defeat this with no drugs? No name.
Okay. So, sorry, who is that from?
No name. Just
no name. Okay. So this is a really difficult thing because there's a number of layers to this question. Firstly, for somebody to decide whether drugs are the right thing to go, medications are the right thing to go, or a talking therapy, or do it yourself, a professional needs to at least be seen once to make that kind of assessment. Because Hurricane, I know it's a cliche, but everybody is different. Everybody has different needs. And to know what helps in one particular situation, somebody has to see that person. Having said that, though, we do live in a society that puts a lot of pressure on self-esteem. It's a lot of pressure on feeling good about ourselves. And as a psychiatrist, I've got to let people in on a little secret. And that is that people actually don't feel good about themselves. It's actually more usual for people to go, you know what? I know some of the things that I think. I know some of the things that I feel. How can I feel good about that? So the reason that I'm saying that is I want to take away that pressure that you should have a high self-esteem, because most people actually have a low self-esteem. The question is, can you let yourself off the hook? Can you let go? Can you say, well, my intention is to do as good as I can, and to reward yourself and acknowledge that you're doing the best that you can? Because sometimes we look at other people and we think, oh, haven't they got a great life? Or aren't they doing well? Because we're judging their outsides and we can't hear their thoughts or their feelings. And if we were to hear each other's thoughts and feelings, and thank goodness that we can't, because it would get far too much for us all, we'd have a bit more understanding for each other, and we'd actually see, you know what? Nobody actually feels good about themselves. We're all trying our best. So I'm going to divide the answer to this in two parts. One, if medication or talking therapy is right for you, you're going to have to see somebody to make that decision together. But the second part is that we live in a society that is putting a lot of pressure on people to have a high self-esteem. And so people actually feel like more of a failure when they don't achieve that. And so that's why I'm letting people in on this secret that, in a way, it's okay to feel bad about yourself as long as you can let yourself off the hook and encourage yourself to keep doing the best that you can. Because when you do, you start to feel good about yourself, because it's not self-esteem that you want. It's actually self-respect, okay? It's the feeling that I'm doing what's right. I'm trying to do what's right. I'm a bit better today than I was yesterday. I want to be a bit better in 2023 than I was in 2022. I want our team to do just a little bit better in the next World Cup than the last one. And that all has to do with excellence in ourselves, but also in the whole human race, and even in soccer, Hurricane.
Well, thank you, Doctor. And it's amazing. I'm listening to you. And first of all, it's great to hear the idea that you have, that everybody pretty much can have that same, scenario where we all feel somewhere, we don't have the best esteem, right? But the part that I wanted to talk about is that personally, I think we create that, right? Because we are mostly thinking about what other people think about us.
Yes,
I think that's the issue mostly, is because we are worried about what people are going to think, as opposed to just worried about just I'm comfortable who I am, how I look. I don't care what people think. I don't care.
Yeah.
If we can add that attitude to it, I think we can probably do more. Now, it's easier said than done, but it takes some I guess practice. I mean, people make fun of me. I'm okay. It is what it is. I can't change it. Right? I look the way I look. I mean, I'm not going to change that, right? There's nothing I can do. I mean, yeah, I can go and do maybe plastic surgery. I'm just giving an example, but it could be anything, right? I got maybe a weight issue. Well, guess what? I can diet. I can do stuff, but I don't care what people think. If the minute we stop thinking about what other people think about us, I think that can change the dynamics on how we feel.
Yes.
And I think that's a big, differentiator. I think in terms of how we deal with this. I personally, that's my thing. I don't worry about what people think.
Yes. So Hurricane, you're adding the idea of acceptance, and so a saying such as "You've got to play the hand that life has dealt you," right? So, in other words, we're not going to change our eye color, our skin color. We're not going to change how tall we are. Okay, there are some things about ourselves that we just need to accept. This is who I am. But given that, you then sort of say, okay, so this is my hand. This is what life has dealt me. What can I do with that? And we all try to do our best, okay? And the idea of accepting who you are and where you are is a big part of that equation. So thanks for that, Hurricane. Yes.
No, I thank you. I mean, I just kind of like I apply that because to your point, I mean, when you're young, and this especially kids, I mean, they get through a lot of that bullying in school and things, and mostly it's people making fun of you for no reason. I mean, when I was a kid, I had some of that myself. I was short, I was skinny, and people look at me like, they used to call me chickpea. So, but you know what? I endorsed that, I accepted it, whatever. Call me whatever you want. Call me, anything you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. And but it takes time to build to that, level of try. And again, I've used different things like martial arts was one of the things to give me a confidence and whatever. But I mean, there's different tools out there. But at the end of the day, to what you said, I mean, you defined it better than I did, obviously, which was acceptance. And I think that changes dynamics of how you deal with things. And again, you said it before also, like in a previous show, things that you can't change, you can't change. Why worry about them? Yes, I remember it like yesterday.
That's right. And so just to bring it back to self-respect, you mentioned martial arts and how that helped you. If all of us can find one thing that we're good at, now we do not have to be world champions, we do not have to win trophies, but one thing that we're good at. I'm good at understanding other people. I'm good at communicating my needs. I'm good at whatever it is, okay? It doesn't have to be I'm a great soccer player or I'm really intelligent. Just to sort of say, this is part of me, and I'm actually good at that. And all that it takes is looking in your past and see where did you put in effort, and that gave you a good result. And then you can say, I did that. I actually did that. And with that, you start to build self-respect. And the other way to build self-respect is to make decisions that you admire, right? So what decision can I make here that I would feel good about if somebody made this decision, okay? Or to use the words of another psychiatrist, and here I'm going to somebody who survived the Holocaust. His name was Viktor Frankl. He said, the secret to life is this: try to live life as though you're living your life for the second time, and you want to get it right this time. So what he's saying in that is making decisions that you say, you know what, that's the right thing for me to do. Because when you do that, you can respect yourself for doing the best that you possibly can. But I'll even add to that, we will fail in that, okay? In which case you got to let yourself off the hook and be forgiving of yourself. Pick yourself up and go, okay, I'll just try it again. That too builds self-respect.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. And you know what? We have to build that. I mean, we're all human and we all kind of feel that. And you're right. Like there's always like the stuff that's going around us always puts us down in terms of like, well, what do I want to fit in? And you want to fit in a certain category. Now with some of the shows that we see, I mean, it's all about, luxury and this and that. And people are really putting themselves like they feel like they're just not up to par with everybody else's, expectation, and causes a little bit of a dilemma. Again, you know what your means are, you know who you are, and you just have to work with that. Again, that's just an easy way to do it. But again, I love the powerful stuff that you just mentioned about it's a second, shot in life. use it better. Start differently. That's a beautiful concept, and I think we should all apply. It doesn't matter how we feel, but I think we should apply that, because that will give us a restart every time to a better place. Well, doctor, I think you just hit our mark here. We have a few more questions. We'll save them for the next one, for next month. So again, our first broadcast for 2023 will be at the last Friday of January. And again, it is a live show. The number is on the screen. So when we are live, you can call us. You can also send us a chat. It will be on all the different social media pieces where you can actually chat with us. That being said, Doctor, have a happy new year and ahead of us, and I guess you'll be in the next year before us. So tell us how it is. Send us a message to the past and say, hey, it's great so far.
I'm saying the future's looking bright, so have a happy new year when it gets to you, okay?
Thank you. You start the tradition and just send the wave over here. So.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right. And folks, thank you for watching, listening. And for those that are with us today, if not, happy new year for the whole next, 12 months, and enjoy. And may this new year be more prosperous, a lot of health, wealth, and happiness and peace in the world. So thank you so much.